Start. Good day. This is Evelyn Ackah from Ask Canadian Immigration Lawyer, Evelyn Ackah podcast. And I am excited today because I have the pleasure of welcoming my friend and colleague, Erin Cowling, to join us. Erin, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Erin is the founder and president of Flex Legal, and they offer legal services across the country in many different practice areas. And I thought it would be great to learn more about Erin, and as a lawyer and now also as a business person like myself, what was your path to this? How did you get here? Tell me everything.
Yeah, I did not leave law school thinking, oh, I'm going to become a freelance lawyer and run a company and run a business. It was the last thing I expected. I think a lot of law students leave law school thinking the only options are associate, partner at a law firm, and that there's no other, entrepreneurial ways to practice law or do something different with your law degree. Some people are a little more imaginative than I am, because I did not think about that. But I started like most people. I summered and articled and was an associate at a large firm in downtown Toronto. I basically fell there by default. I didn't know any lawyer before I started law school. I'm the first person in my family to go to university. And so people at law school were like, are you applying to Bay Street? I didn't even know what Bay Street was. So I'm like, sure, I don't know.
I need to know.
And on a personal note, like my boyfriend at the time had just broken up with me. We had broken up and I'm like, I want to get out of Ottawa where I went to law school. And I thought, Bay Street's far enough away. This is perfect. So really, thank you to that ex-boyfriend for breaking up with me. Otherwise, my path would have been maybe very different.
Mm-hmm.
So I was an associate on Bay Street for about 7-8 years as a corporate commercial litigator. Mm-hmm. And then I left to go in work at a private or a small estate litigation boutique. I was kind of under the impression that I didn't really want to work for corporations anymore as my clients. I thought I went into law school to help people. I want to get involved with people's cases. Yeah, wills and estates litigation, it's very, how do I put this? It's a little traumatic.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
It's emotional. It's people fighting over their dead parents' money and the thought of just being yelled at all day. And like, it's not, you're dealing with people at their most kind of difficult times in their lives.
Yeah.
And I was used to dealing with corporations where you're dealing with like in-house counsel, and often the matter had to deal with money. And here it had to deal with a lot of long held emotional issues between family members. And I didn't really think that through. So I worked there for 8 months, and I tell people it was about 7 months too long. Not my personality mix. A lot of people love estate litigation and they get such joy from it. As a highly sensitive person who is an empath, I just took on all of that emotion at the end of the day, and it just wasn't for me. So I quit that job without another job lined up. And I know a lot of people say that's a really bad mistake to make in a legal career, but sometimes you have to put your mental health over, the bad mistakes, right? So I was actually pregnant with my third child at the time, and I quit because I needed to focus on getting my headspace back to where I could practice law again. And this is a long story of how I got to where I am now as a freelance lawyer. But as I was off, I couldn't I'm a busy person. I just can't sit on my hands and not do anything. So I didn't think anyone would hire a pregnant lady, even though I know there's laws against that. But I thought I would wait to look for a job until after I'd given birth. But I wanted to do something. So I started picking up projects. I just called like little pieces of work from lawyer friends that I had who had started their own practices. So I was at that kind of stage where I was about 9 years out. So people were starting their own law firms. And so a friend was like, can you help me with this factum? I'm like, sure, I can do this. So at home, I was starting to help other lawyers with their overflow legal work. So it was drafting blog posts, it was drafting factums, anything litigation related. I was just picking and choosing. And the whole intention was just to do this as a kind of a stopgap measure until I was ready to go back and work full-time, either on Bay Street or another law firm. And then when the time came to apply, I kept getting this feeling in the pit of my stomach going, "Oh, I don't want to work the 100 hours a week. I don't want to work for someone else again." And so that's when I started freelancing, and I started my own personal freelance practice. I called it Cowling Legal Freelance. And I started working for other lawyers and law firms with helping with their overflow legal work.
Wow.
And I started that in 2012, 2013, and I got so busy that I was turning down work. So that's when Flex Legal, my current company, was born.
Yes.
Because I thought, why am I turning down work? There's probably other lawyers who want to freelance, and there's obviously a need. So we started with like 3 lawyers, and we now have 48 freelance lawyers and 15 law clerks now. So, and we help law firms and lawyers all across Canada.
And so thank you for that very fulsome overview. I like how detailed and specific you are. You're such a lawyer. I love it.
I am. I just wanted to show the meandering path. It wasn't straight. It went this way and that way.
Yeah, we all, when you look at our lives now that we're getting a little more mature, you look back and it's never a straight line, right? But it leads you to someplace better and different. And when you're ready, it comes. So what kind of practice areas does freelance legal provide? Lawyer, like what kind of Flex Legal provide?
Yeah, we provide pretty much everything. So our main, because I am at heart a litigator, our for the first few years, our main practice was just in litigation. But we have now added corporate lawyers and estate lawyers and family law lawyers and everything. So yeah, it's a wide variety. We try to help as much as we can of any. So our main clients or customers that reach out are law firms that are like sole practitioners up to about 10 lawyers. And those type of law practice tend to do general law. So we cover the bases: family, real estate, litigation, wills and estates. So those are our main, but we also have the other areas too.
That's great. Oh my goodness. So for like a solo, how would you provide support? It would be like they're too busy, they need help? Or
yeah, so there seems to be 2 different ways people use our services. One is a solo who maybe has no intention of growing. They don't want to hire a full-time associate or another partner, but sometimes they just get so busy, they just need occasional help. So we may have someone reach out to help with a factum, and then we don't hear from them for 6 months. And then we help them with maybe a motion or an application. And then the other people who use us are people who are trying to scale their law practices. But once again, they're not quite ready to hire a full-time associate, but they need regular assistance, maybe 10 hours a month or 15 hours a month. So they'll use one of our lawyers to help them scale their practice until they get to the point where they're ready to bring on a full-time lawyer.
oh wow, that's a great idea. We have to talk. We're expanding to other areas, so we'll have to talk after this. So you've been doing this now for what, almost 10 years, 12 years?
It's been 2015, so six years. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. And so how do you find your clients? How do they find you? What is that about? Is it mostly referral, or is it, I'd love to hear that, because you have to basically feed them all in some way, right? Not directly, but they're not full-time, but you have to create the opportunities for them to do their Flex Legal work.
Yeah, so Flex Legal, that's our job, is business development. We go out there and we get the work for our freelancers. So at the beginning, Flex Legal was really a side hustle for me. I was still freelancing pretty much full-time with my own clients, and then trying to get in work for the other freelancers. So it was really kind of a side hustle that started out slow. And then, like any good business idea, it just gets really busy. But the way I found people in the beginning was I just went through my network. So in Toronto, I know a lot of lawyers. This is where we're based. So I would go to every single in-person networking event I could, obviously pre-COVID. Anywhere I knew lawyers were hanging out, I would go. And I found that was the best way to get people at the beginning, because I feel like lawyers don't trust a lot of people.
And we're so skeptical. We're trained to be skeptical. So, and if you're not a lawyer, they don't give you any respect on top of it,
So if I could meet people in person and I feel like there's a connection, then even if they don't hire Flex Legal, they would recommend us to other lawyers who would hire because they had that personal kind of connection. So at the beginning, it was really a lot of in-person. And then I love to write. So I did a lot of writing because my budget for advertising and marketing was very small. I'd rather spend my time and writing articles and writing blogs, which was a free way to get the name out there. Now that we've grown, we have a social media manager who helps us with that. I still do a lot of speaking. COVID has kind of put a little bit of a damper on those things, but speaking on panels, speaking in front of lawyers as much as I can, because our target market is really just other lawyers
that need help. I think it's a great model because I think obviously as a business owner myself, you go through cycles, and sometimes, as you said, you're not ready always to commit, but it's scary, and then you're like, oh, what happens? And so I think it's a great niche because it, as you said, it allows people to scale up, Erin, but also not to feel the pressure of it that you have when you have full-time employees. So how does it work for the people that are the lawyers that want to join Flex Legal? How does that whole process work? How much do they work? Is it completely all up to them?
Yeah, so flexibility is at the heart of Flex Legal. Anyone who wants to apply to become a freelance member, we're members in a network, they're not employees of Flex Legal. We like them to have at least 5 to 10 years of experience first, because of the nature of our practice, the freelance lawyers have to jump in on any file and just hit the ground running. The lawyers who hire us are too busy to do any kind of training. So we can't, while I do have a lot of new lawyers and new calls reach out, it's just not suitable for this type of work that we do. So they can just apply. We have an application process where you need a CV or a in-depth interview with me. We ask for writing samples and references, so when the project comes in, we send it out to the people who are experienced in that area. And if they don't want to take it on, they don't have to. But on the flip side, like, we can't guarantee work because it's not a full-time job. We do our best to do as much business development as possible, but it's very flexible.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So for instance, who are the types of people? Like, would it be stereotypically mothers, people who want to work less and be home more, or people that are more senior that kind of want to slow down? Like, what is the kind of lawyer you have on your team?
Yeah, it's such a variety. We actually, gender-wise, it's almost 50-50. I would probably say it's 60-40 leaning towards women, but not all the women have children. So it's really people who, for whatever reason, have something else going on in their life, whether it's children, whether they've taken time off to raise children and they want to ease their way back into practice. This is a good way to do that. Or like you said, those who want to wrap up, maybe they've closed their practice, but they're not really ready to give up law altogether. So they're like, send me a project a month. I know I'll do that. Other people, we've had people who've been doing like a tech startup on the side, and they still need a little bit of money now and again. So they use us, or we have them as members as well. It's really just a variety of people who, for whatever reason, can't commit to a full-time law firm job.
Great. Oh my goodness. I think it's incredible. It's a great model. I can't believe how big you've grown. So tell me about the clerks. How did they support your people? Like, how did they work with you? Yeah.
Same thing. So the clerks really just came about. I never had any idea of adding clerks to our network until clients just kept asking. Law firms are like, do you have legal assistants? Do you have law clerks? I really need someone. And I thought, well, if the client's asking for it, let's see if I can find some. So same thing. It's either law firms who don't have a need for a full-time law clerk, or maybe they're watching their budget. They'll reach out and they'll use our freelance law clerks either for a one-off transaction. Let's say if their regular law clerk is on vacation, or they'll use our clerks for maybe 10 hours a month or whatever set amount, or like 4 real estate transactions a month or something like that. So they work under the supervising lawyer who's at the law firm, and everything's done remotely. And yeah.
Cool. Do you guys ever see each other? How do you keep them all connected? I mean, I think when you have a virtual business, especially now, how have you managed that to keep everybody engaged?
Yeah. So in the beginning, when we really were based in Toronto, we would get together once a year and have like a meal, and it was a little easier. But now that we're all across Canada, it's a little harder. We do CPD training for our freelancers. So we do that about once a quarter. So we all get together on Zoom and we have a little session. We do have a Slack channel, or we had one, but we didn't find it was that active. So I don't know if we'll be implementing it again. But really, yeah, it's mostly, some people are looking for that community and others don't want. They're just like, and it's probably one of the reasons why they're drawn to freelancing. They just want to stay at home, put their head down, do their work, and not talk to anybody else. And I don't begrudge them at all. So some people don't really want that community, and others do. So obviously once a month we send out like a freelancer update. I give them some tips about freelancing and all that kind of stuff too.
That's great. Oh my gosh. So what has been the biggest challenge for you as an entrepreneur, you would think, after doing it for as long as you've been doing it?
The uncertainty, I'm not someone who plans ahead, which maybe you probably should do when you're in a business. I kind of just go with the flow, and everyone's like, what's your quarterly projections? What are your plans? I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But really, I'm getting much better at that. I'm getting like, I don't have a business background. My undergrad is in English Lit and women's studies. So we didn't learn much about how to run a business in either of those courses.
And not in law school either.
No, but that's changing, which is good. I think, yeah, it's the uncertainty, but that's also adds the excitement to it. Yeah, I'm not getting that paycheck every 2 weeks when you're like, I don't know when the money's coming in. And then just watching it grow to the point where you're like, wow, this is no longer a side hustle. This is an actual thriving business. And I birthed this baby. This is amazing.
That's exciting. So tell me, so I know you do lots of blogs and you won all these awards and you write a lot. I heard something about you've got this young lawyer service or something. What is that?
Oh, where I provide career counseling to young
How did you get into that?
Yeah, so I have a couple different ways. So I'm the regional alumni advisor for the University of Ottawa. That's an official position. So I provide career counseling for lawyers in their first 10 years of practice who have graduated from the University of Ottawa. But then I found lawyers who hadn't graduated from Ottawa were reaching out and asking for some career counseling, career consulting services from me too. So I thought, well, if the need's there, and I might as well do that too. So I do both.
How did you find time for this with running a business, being a mom, being a wife? I mean, how do you find this time? I don't.
I don't. And I think we were talking about this before we started recording, but I just hired a full-time person to help me run the business, which will help me free up some more time to do all this other stuff. But it's all about scheduling, and I love those like technology, and I have different Calendly links. So if it's a career consulting, they get access to certain parts of my calendar, and all that stuff.
I love it. You've managed your life. I love it. So I mean, for me, do you do any lawyering still? Like true lawyering, or you replaced yourself?
No, not anymore. So as of June of 2020, I stopped actually lawyering because the business was, so I'm now working on the business instead of in the business, as they say.
Yes, that is fabulous. That's huge. Do you miss it?
Yeah, I have to say I have an identity crisis now and again, because you've been a lawyer for so long, and I'm still like I'm fully insured. I'm still through the Law Society. Yes. Like I haven't given up. I just haven't taken on anything lately, because a part of me is like, what happens if I want to take on one file and just do that? I still have that option, even though I haven't. But yeah, I do miss a little bit.
I think it's smart too. I mean, I think that's my dream. So you are way ahead. Every year I think I'm going to be done, and then, life happens. But I like the idea of that you continue to keep your license, because I think it also gives you, as you know, lawyers need to be credible to sell to lawyers. And I think it's important, right? So I would never give it up unless you're like forever done.
And I can't say forever. I can't.
No. So I mean, you probably see a lot with the law students. I love that you're seeing the lawyers that are moving through transitions in their lives. How has COVID, do you think, affected the legal profession and the lawyers that you communicate with?
Yeah, at the beginning, when some students lost their summer positions and some articling students lost their jobs, and even first year associates were let go, because I think no one knew what was going on with the pandemic. Law firms kind of freaked out, like, are we still going to get clients? The work dried up in some areas of law. So there was a lot of helping with finding other law jobs, helping with networking skills, helping them kind of look outside the box for jobs. So there's a lot of counseling and coaching in those areas. I find now, though, the market has picked up. There seems to be a real demand for certain lawyers in certain areas. So I think there's almost on the flip side, where hiring is harder for the employers, finding good talent in some areas. And also, I think I don't know if you've read about like the Great Resignation. There seems to be, a lot of people, the pandemic has taught them, you know what, I don't know if I like where I am. I want to start all over and find a new job. So I think there's a bit of an upheaval in the legal profession right now as well.
I think, I totally agree with you, Erin. I think one thing that is good about the negative side, I guess the bad part of COVID, what's turned out to be good is that lawyers, you know, who have been stodgy and we're the slowest to advance. And, you know, having worked at an accounting firm, when they're like, oh, the lawyers are behind us, and the professional services field, to see that they know now we don't have to sit at our desk until 12 in the morning or 12 at night to show them that we're working. That whole concept of Bay Street, of you leaving your jacket and going to have dinner and you go home and sleep and come back, like the craziness that just, if I don't see you, you're not working, is completely gone. And I think that in itself has just advanced lawyering, especially for women in law, families in law, people that have other interests that are also lawyers, to show that work can get done wherever you want. And we've all had to adapt. Even the courts have had to adapt, you know? And so I think that's been really, really positive.
Yes. And that has helped with my sales strategy with Flex Legal, because before the pandemic, I had to really convince law firms that it was okay that these freelance lawyers weren't coming into the office. They'd be like, oh, I don't know, can they really work from home unsupervised? And I'd be like, you know, they're mature lawyers, we can work from home, we have the technology. And now I don't even have to have that conversation with anybody thinking of hiring us for our services. It's great.
Fabulous, because they get it now.
They get it.
They get it. Oh, it's a new world. So listen, I remember being honored to be on your podcast. Are you still doing your podcast, Women Leading in Law? Or do you have
so it was a blog. It was a blog series. And no, I did not. I've stopped doing that. I think this year, I'm not going to lie, was pretty stressful. And I think for a lot of us, I had to kind of, between balancing the kids at home for schooling and the business taking off because it was so busy, and my practice before I gave it up, the writing and the blogs kind of fell to the side. So I decided to stop doing that. And once things, I'm feeling like a little bit more myself now. It's taken a while. It may eventually come back. But yeah, I profiled 72 women across Canada who are practicing law in a variety of different ways. And I was lucky to have you as one of my guest bloggers.
That's so great. I really appreciate the opportunity, because I was so impressed how far it went, like people reaching out, and I was like, oh my goodness, this woman is everywhere. So I mean, that in itself creates this real network. I mean, that's how you and I have gotten to know each other, through friends that also own their own businesses, one that's similar to yours and another that's similar to mine. And just feeling the need during COVID in particular, when you're leading a business, that's very isolating, right? And I think that's the one thing that, as a leader, what are you working on? How do you, besides our little group that we need to get back to more regularly, how are you keeping from feeling isolated from an owner perspective? Because not like you can just go to a meeting necessarily and meet other executives or other business owners the way we might have before.
Yeah, I always envy, in some ways, I envy people who have business partners, because you at least have someone else running the company with you, and you can at least turn to them to help with any issues come up. But then a part of me is like, nah, I love being the boss.
It's hard. I'm
Yeah.
I've been there.
But you're
done that.
right. It is isolating when you're a solopreneur and
Yeah.
you're the only one and all the crap falls on your shoulders.
Yeah.
So yeah, over COVID, it's really been, our group and reaching out by email and our Zoom calls. And I belong to a couple of masterminds for women business owners, and I participated in an accelerator program through York University.
Oh,
So I got to know a lot of other women entrepreneurs who were scaling their business. So that really helped too.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really about just finding those people that you can connect with and reach out to when, one of those days where you're just like, I just want to close it up. I just want to shut it all down and go work at Starbucks.
That's it. Those are the days you get to get up and get out and get some fresh air and get it together. But oh my goodness, this has been so great. I mean, I love your business idea. I love the Flex Legal. I think the lawyers need to have more flexibility. And that's why I think a lot of women and people of color and others have been leaving traditional Bay Street big firm because maybe there's not the same flexibility. And men now, of course, partners, they want flexibility to have their family life or their personal life. So I think this is something that's going to just keep growing and growing, hopefully for you. And it's making me think about how people practice differently, and even for staffing, how to provide opportunities for that. Do you do any coaching at all for the law firms that you work with on top of all the other things you do to help make the transition working with someone on your team is, seamless?
Yeah, so actually that's one of my next projects once this. So I have been doing like one-on-one when somebody reaches out and they're working with a freelancer for the first time. I give them some ideas on how to it's hard to delegate, there's some things, but I want to actually produce something, either a video or a booklet or something to help. So it's not just me doing it all. And you seem to have this down great. You have all these processes in place that I still haven't quite got there yet.
Oh, it's a constant work in progress. I mean, we have videos up the wazoo, but if you're not watching them, you know, and the same with manuals up the wazoo, but the staff need to read them, you know, and so it's not easy. And I really, really appreciate, you taking the time. I know you're busy, but I just wanted to make sure we could highlight Flex Legal. I think that it's a fabulous thing, and I'll make sure my networks learn about you. So you do all across Canada, nothing in the US yet. You haven't taken over the US. And in terms of technology and everything, you provide all of that support, or?
Yeah, so often the law firms want to use their own technology. So the freelance lawyer will use whatever, because they're very particular about what programs they use. So
Perfect. Okay, good. And so is there anything else you want to share about you, Erin Cowling, or Flex Legal, or where you're going in the next 2 to 5 years? What's next?
What's next? No, it's just now focusing on growing this company now that it's an actual company, like I said, and not a side hustle. And I'm happy to speak to anybody who either wants to hire one of our freelancers or is interested in becoming one of our freelancers. They can definitely reach out, and we can help with that.
I'm going to call you. I think so. You've got some great things to offer for solopreneurs and small to medium law firms, and even maybe big firms, because they're having some crazy litigation. So, I mean, I think you really meet a need for all different practice areas. Do you do in-house as well?
Yeah, so we work for corporations, but only if they have an in-house legal department. So if it's a corporation without counsel, then we don't, but it's,
That makes sense, because they need that corporate background to be able to be successful in what they're doing. Okay, well, thank you so much, Erin. I really appreciate your time. And I look forward to seeing you grow and expand and be better than ever. I really appreciate the support, especially during the last 18 months of COVID, to have gotten to know you better and our ladies group. And I look forward to lunching and seeing you soon.
Yes, in person, hopefully.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.